Pinoy style spaghetti, hot dog included.
Alright, here we go. Oil into the pan. Now, for those wondering why my oil is a tad bit reddish in color, that's because a few days ago I was making a ragu sauce and I decided to set aside the oil that would rise to the top. For those wondering, this sauce hasn't been seasoned yet, so that means the oil hasn't been influenced by any popular Italian herbs. And this will be my choice of fat for today's video. Now, let's move on. I know not everyone does this, but I'm gonna do it. Chop luncheon meat into the pan, and you want to give this a good browning. Let this cook for about 2 to 3 minutes, or until the luncheon meat begins to firm up. Feel free to use whatever brand you'd like to use. Now, once that is done, set the luncheon meat aside because we're going to be using that later. Next ingredient to cook would be the hot dogs. Cut it up like so and into the pan. And just how we did with the luncheon meat, give these hot dogs a good round of browning as well. And be sure to set them aside as we'll use them again later. Now at this point, your pan may dry out, and if you need to add more oil, then just do so accordingly. Now is a good time to saute our garlic. So, garlic into the pan and let this cook for another minute or 2. I would highly encourage that at this point you want to lower the heat to avoid burning the garlic. Next step, we're going to cook our red onions. Now, I should mention, ideally this recipe has white and red onions, but as for the past weeks, I couldn't find any white onions. So for this video, we're gonna have to settle for red onions. Anyhow, continue cooking the onions until they become translucent.
Quick note, some people do add carrots. I'm gonna leave it up to you if you want to add it or not.
So yes guys, at this point you can add some grated carrots into the mix. I won't, as I want to stick to this particular recipe. Now, ground pork into the pan. With the use of your spoon, break the meat apart like so. You'll want to increase the heat here so we can brown the pork really well. And at this phase, you can also season the meat with a pinch of black pepper and some salt. Once you're done with the seasoning, just go ahead and give it a good round of mixing. Continue to do so for about, say, 5 to 8 minutes. At that point, the meat should begin to evenly brown. And that's exactly what we're going for here. Now, at this point, we're going to add tomato paste. Now, I know some of you may be accustomed to adding the tomato paste once the tomato sauce is inside. Personally though, I would encourage you that you try doing this first. Before you add any water or say tomato sauce, try cooking the tomato paste first with the meat. It really does make a difference, and a lot of cooks that I know practice this method when working with tomato paste. Now, let's move on to the next ingredient, and that being ketchup.
To my Italian friends and relatives, I apologize.
I did say that this is a Pinoy style spaghetti recipe, so if you're Italian or part Italian like me, I do hope that you do not get triggered by this video. And understand that this is simply one's take on a recipe. This is something that is proudly Pinoy, and a lot of Filipino cooks have their own way of preparing this dish. And if you'll one day try it and enjoy it, then good. But if not, then that's fine as well. Alright, now let's move on. Time to add some water into this, and afterwards we're going to add 1 beef broth cube. Mix everything together again, and now we're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, check the seasoning. You can always add a little more salt and pepper if needed. Notice I am not putting any Italian seasonings here because, yeah. In true Pinoy fashion though, we will add some sugar. Some recipes like it really sweet. I, on the other hand, will only add about 2 tablespoons worth of sugar. Now, do you remember the cooked luncheon meat and hot dogs from earlier? Well, now's a good time to add it all in. And once that is done, of course, do not forget to give it a good round of mixing. Shortly after that, kill the heat because now we're going to add some all-purpose cream.
By the way, it is common practice to use condensed milk or evaporated milk. It's really up to you as to what you want to use. I used all-purpose cream.
So here we go. Again guys, please do not forget to kill the heat here. You do not want your cream to curdle. The natural heat from the sauce is more than enough. Now all you have to do is simply mix it really well. At this point, the sauce is done. Also, be sure to have your cooked pasta on standby. Next step, I know what you guys are thinking. It is time to sauce up this spaghetti. And once you get something that looks like this, normally we'd add some grated cheese on the top and then call it a day. I, however, will not stop here. This part is optional, but if you'd like, feel free to pop this into a preheated oven. Let this bake for 15 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And just like that, ladies and gents, you are done. This right here is my take on the Pinoy style spaghetti, or as some may call it, baked Pinoy style spaghetti. To my foreign viewers who may not be aware, this is a dish that is always present during any Pinoy festive gathering, especially when it is one's birthday.
childhood memories on the plate.
And that is it, you guys. As someone who was born and raised in the Philippines, this dish will always have a special place in my heart, despite my father's influence when it comes to everything Italian.
Thank you again so much for watching, you guys. I'll be flashing the recipe right now.